Hey everyone, my name is Jessica Moore, and I'm 26 years old. What I'm about to tell you will shock you. It shocked me. It shocked my entire family. For the past 6 months, I've been trying to process what happened to me. And I finally have the courage to share it. This is not a love story. This is a betrayal story. A lie story. A story that destroyed everything I thought I knew about the people I loved most. If you value loyalty and trust in relationships, you need to hear this. Let's start from the beginning. Okay, so my name is Jessica. I have a twin sister named Jennifer. We're identical twins, literally impossible to tell apart. Our whole lives, we've had this bond that no one else understands. I met my fiancé, Daniel, 3 years ago. He was working as a consultant at my company. He was charming, funny, kind, everything I wanted in a partner. We dated for 2.5 years. The relationship was good. Not perfect, but good. He proposed last year, and I said yes. My sister Jennifer was my maid of honor. She was so excited for me. Or at least, I thought she was. The wedding was on a Saturday in April. Beautiful venue, 300 guests, everything was perfect. My dad walked me down the aisle. I saw Daniel waiting at the altar, and he was smiling. He looked happy. We exchanged vows. I meant every single word of mine. But as I'm looking at him now, I realize he was probably already lying. We got married at 4 p.m. The reception was from 6 p.m. to midnight. Everyone was celebrating, dancing, eating. It was a beautiful night. Around 11 p.m., Daniel said he wanted to go change out of his tuxedo and into something more comfortable. He said he'd be back in 20 minutes. I gave him a kiss and he left. Midnight passed. No Daniel. 1 a.m. No Daniel. I started asking people, have you seen Daniel? My mom said, maybe he's in the bathroom. My dad said, maybe he fell asleep in the hotel room. But something felt wrong. My gut was telling me something was seriously wrong. I went to our honeymoon suite. He wasn't there. I called his phone. It went straight to voicemail. I started to panic. What if he was in an accident? What if something bad happened to him? I told my parents. They called the police. The police came and filed a missing persons report. They said that since it was only a few hours, they would monitor the situation, but couldn't officially search yet. My wedding night turned into a nightmare. I didn't sleep. I kept calling his phone. I kept checking my email, my text messages. Nothing. By 3 a.m., I was hysterical. My mom was trying to comfort me. My dad was furious. And then, Jennifer found me in the hotel room. My sister, she sat down next to me and said, Jessica, I need to tell you something. I looked at her and I said, do you know where Daniel is? She looked away. She wouldn't make eye contact. I said, Jennifer, tell me. Do you know where he is? And she said, Jessica, I think Daniel left you. I think he ran away. I was like, what? Why would you say that? And she said, because I think he realized he made a mistake. I said, how would you even know that? She didn't answer. She just got up and walked out of the room. That was the moment I realized something was really, really wrong. The police finally launched an official missing persons search on Sunday morning. They checked his credit card records. His last charge was at a gas station 2 hours away from our city, in the direction of the coast. They checked his phone location. It pinged near a hotel in Oceanside City, about 3 hours from where we were. By Sunday afternoon, the police called me and said, we found him. I was so relieved. I thought maybe he was in an accident, confused, didn't know where he was. I was ready to forgive him for whatever was happening. I said, is he okay? Can I see him? The detective said, Ms. Moore, I need to ask you something. Does your sister Jennifer have any history of complications with relationships? I was confused. I said, no, why are you asking me that? He said, because when we found your husband, he wasn't alone. He was with your sister. My heart stopped. I literally couldn't breathe. I said, what do you mean he was with my sister? He said, he checked into a hotel with a woman. The woman's ID said Jennifer Moore. Your sister. I felt like the world was spinning. He continued, Ms. Moore, your husband and your sister checked into this hotel together on Saturday night at 11:47 p.m. They were registered as a couple. They got a room with one bed. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. The detective said, I'm very sorry, Ms. Moore, but it appears your husband and sister left together on your wedding night. The police brought Daniel back to the city. They also brought Jennifer. They said I could press charges for abandonment, but that was up to me. I immediately drove to the police station. When I saw Daniel, I couldn't even look at him. I just broke down. Right there in the police station. I said, how could you? On our wedding night, with my sister. He looked ashamed. He couldn't even make eye contact. But then they took me to a separate room and Jennifer was there. And I I exploded. I said, what is wrong with you? He's my husband. My husband. And you're supposed to be my sister. We're twins. We shared a womb together. How could you do this to me? Jennifer started crying and she said, Jessica, I'm so sorry. I didn't plan this. It just happened. I said, it just happened. You don't just happen to run away with someone's husband on their wedding night. And then, Daniel walked in. He said, Jess, I need to explain. I said, explain what? That you're a liar. That you married me while being in love with my sister. He said, no, that's not it. Listen to me. Please, just listen. I said, I don't want to hear anything you have to say. But he said it anyway. Daniel said, Jessica, I need to tell you something that's going to sound insane. But I need you to know the truth. I said, what truth? What could possibly explain this? He said, when I first met you, I didn't fall in love with you. I fell in love with your sister. My stomach dropped. He continued, on your first day at the company, Jennifer was visiting you. I saw her in the hallway. I thought she was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. I became obsessed. I tried to approach her, but she rejected me. She said she wasn't interested. I looked at Jennifer. She was crying. He said, so I started pursuing you instead. Because you looked exactly like her. I thought if I spent enough time with you, I could convince myself that I was in love with you. But I was really in love with your sister the whole time. I felt sick. I literally felt like I was going to throw up. He continued, the night before the wedding, Jennifer came to me. She said she'd been thinking about our conversation, and she had feelings for me too. She said she realized she made a mistake rejecting me. I looked at Jennifer again. She nodded. He said, we decided that the only way this could work was if I left you. If I ran away, and started a new life with Jennifer. I said, so you married me as a lie. You married me knowing you were going to leave me the next day. He said, yes, that one word destroyed me. But then, Jennifer stood up. She said, Jessica, there's something else, something worse. I said, what could possibly be worse? She said, I need to tell you why I really encouraged you to marry Daniel in the first place. I said, what are you talking about? And then she told me the truth, that shattered my entire understanding of my life. Jennifer said, Jessica, do you remember when I was diagnosed with cancer 3 years ago? I said, what? Jennifer, you were never diagnosed with cancer. What are you talking about? She said, exactly. I lied. I made up a fake cancer diagnosis, so you would stop worrying about me being alone and lonely. I was completely confused. She continued, but you didn't stop worrying. You became more anxious about me. You thought I needed to find a husband, find love, before I ran out of time. I was starting to understand, but not fully. She said, so Daniel and I came up with a plan. A horrible, terrible plan. We were going to fake a romance, so that you'd see me with someone and feel like I was going to be okay. She said, but Daniel, he actually did fall in love with me. And I fell in love with him. And we realized we couldn't go through with the lie. I said, so you destroyed my wedding. You destroyed my marriage. She said, yes, because we realized we loved each other more than we wanted to protect your feelings. Daniel nodded and said, I'm sorry, Jess. I know that's not an excuse, but I couldn't marry you while being in love with someone else. That would have been worse. That would have been a lifetime of lies. I sat there in silence. And then, I did something I didn't expect. I started laughing. Not a happy laugh. A confused, broken laugh. Because in that moment, I realized, my husband didn't want me. My sister chose a man over our bond. And I was the villain in someone else's love story. So here's where we are now, 6 months later. Daniel and Jennifer are still together. They got engaged last month. They are planning a wedding for next year. I've been in therapy trying to process all of this. My parents have largely sided with Jennifer, because she's following her heart. My dad barely speaks to me anymore. I'm alone. I'm 26 years old, and I feel like my entire life was a lie. But here's what I've learned. Sometimes, the people who hurt us the most are the people we trust the most. And sometimes, there's no good explanation. There's no redemption. There's just pain. I'm sharing this story not to get revenge, or to shame Daniel or Jennifer. I'm sharing it because I want you to understand something. Love is not always kind. Family is not always loyal. And sometimes, the person standing next to you at the altar is standing there for the wrong reasons. I'm still healing. I'm still angry. But I'm alive. And I'm learning to trust again. That's my story. I'm Jessica Moore. I'm 26 years old. And this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. If you're going through something similar, please know you're not alone. Drop a comment below. I read every single one. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. And maybe, just maybe, ask more questions before you walk down the aisle. See you in the next one.